Hi everybody, and welcome to From This Corner TV. I'm Marilyn Dayton, your producer, your host, and the one who brings you wonderful, wonderful guests. We're here for several reasons. We're here to educate you, entertain you, and really give you an interesting show. And so we've got a very good one, as always. We've got someone I've known for years, and I've seen her go through all of her transitions, and what she's doing right now is pretty amazing. So we have with us Leslie Karen Hammond. Welcome, Leslie.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here.
It's about time, right? We've been talking about this for a while.
months, probably
Yes,
closer to a year.
Yeah, at least a year. And what she's doing now, let me tell you a little bit about Leslie, okay? She is indeed a master at helping people tame their inner critic. This is going to be interesting. So they can capitalize on their strengths and be confident communicators in business and in life. In other words, we're all going to be able to learn from what she says. And she's an inspirational leader, speaker, and author. We've got her books right here. So we all have this inner circle, and which is kind of like a cycle of self-sabotage. And we have it on and off, different times. It depends upon how we feel when we get up in the morning sometimes. So get out your pen and paper, okay? Because you're going to want to take some notes tonight. So here we are. Let's get started.
Nice.
I'd like to start with a little background, okay, on exactly who you are. Because you've been a lot of things. I've seen you, but you're always helping people. You're always helping to guide people, whether it's in the construction business, which you were in for a long time, or, and I want to say this right, a Native American in medicine woman. I love that, because I've seen you do what you do and felt it, which is very magical. So let's talk about your background. Tell us about yourself.
Well, I have always had this nurturing piece of me, which most women do. And as each of us, we go through life and there's things that we do that are perhaps necessary, and they may not be in line with our dreams or where we believe our destiny falls, but because life tends to present us with many opportunities, we go down certain paths and we take from that and we learn, we grow, and then we get closer and closer to where it is that we are meant to be. And you had mentioned, the construction career. Well, I had spent 27 years in that career, and I learned many wonderful things. I grew a very thick skin. I developed very strong communication skills, because if you could imagine, as a woman, for one, in such a male-dominated industry, learning how to communicate effectively and to be heard is important. And from the time that I was in kindergarten, my report cards always said, "Leslie talks too much." So
I can't imagine that.
So to be able to finally do something with that, it's like, woohoo. But there have been so many things so many different paths that I have ended up on where I didn't necessarily see it coming. But at the root of all of that, there's always been this very strong need to help people. I mean, I know that I am here to make the world a better place by helping women and heart-centered men become much more confident communicators. And we'll get into that a little bit more at the end. But my trainings have taken me to Peru. I've been down there a couple of times, and I've studied with people in the jungle and in the mountains, and just talk about feeding my soul. It's gorgeous down there. And ironically, it wasn't until I had gone through that Peruvian experience until I was really ready to connect with my own Native American roots. And once I had done that, my whole world opened up. And where I thought not so much progressive, but had a broader world view of things, there's something about connecting to where one comes from, truly understanding your roots, that helps to reframe the way that you look at the world and the way you appreciate everything. So that's one more level of the person that I've become. And everything that I go through, good, bad, or indifferent, I always find the good in that experience. And as a result, well, like so many people, we have all kinds of things that we've been through. And it's whether or not we choose to grow through that process or whether or not we choose to let that be the end of us. And so I've had so many metamorphoses where I've grown and, you know, like a phoenix rising from the ashes, where I've chosen to take an experience that could have been absolutely horrible, and that was exactly the thing that needed to happen at that time to get me to where I wanted to be. So my life, and that consequently has made me fearless. I've jumped out of planes, I've eaten fire, I've walked on hot coals and broken glass, and I'm a certified scuba diver. And I mean, there's just, I love riding horses. They're really, the only thing that I haven't mastered yet is letting a big spider crawl up a bare arm. That's about the only thing I haven't done yet, and I'm not really sure that's necessary.
Yeah, I'm kind of hoping it isn't. I don't want to picture that.
But other than that, I like to consider myself fearless. And it's within that I can inspire other people to do things they didn't think they had it in them to do. I have this ability to look into someone's eyes and just to feel where they're at and to truly be able to see the potential in them and what they can do. And so when that comes to speaking and someone feeling or thinking that they're not worthy of being heard or they don't have anything to say, that I just want to say, no, that's not the case. Truly, you have something valuable to say.
You know, so many of us wait until we're my age to where we say, I'm going to continue doing whatever I want to do because I've earned it, or I finally know who I am. But we don't have to wait that long, do we?
No, we don't. Well, the challenge with that is the people in our lives, they get very comfortable with who we are at that time. And you, as well as anyone, knows that as we go through transitions in life, they're painful for us. I mean, they don't call it, giving birth for nothing.
Sure.
So we're constantly going through this process. Well, the thing that a lot of people don't consider is that it's not just us that's going through that process. You have, loved ones and friends that are also the observers of you going through this transition. And if they've become very comfortable with this person that you are now, it might take a little bit more adjustment for them to get used to this new, improved, more articulate, more confident you.
Well, a lot of times too, when you let them in on the secret that I'm going to try doing something new, because they're so comfortable and it scares them a little bit. They don't want you to change because you are the way they want you to be. They say, oh, you don't want to do that. If it's a career change, or if it's you want to become a speaker and go out on the road and share your thoughts, or even start a blog and write about what you've experienced. They say, oh, are you sure you really want to talk about all of that?
And it's disguised as them being protective of you, or of them helping you. They don't want you to get hurt, and they're coming from a place of fear for you. Fear that there's been something in their lives that perhaps they've tried that wasn't successful, or they're in pain for whatever reason. So they take a look at what one is about to go through, and all of these red flags go up, and this defense mechanism that is theirs comes up and it comes out. And unfortunately, it really can have an impact, especially if someone is so excited and so enthusiastic about something. You have this brainchild that you think, oh, I need to bring this to the world. And then you share it with the wrong person. Depending on how strong that constitution is within you, that person's opinion or their feedback, that could completely crush your idea and leave you feeling, if you're on the fence about how committed you are to this, that could knock you right off.
And then you won't do what you want to do or what you're meant to do.
Exactly.
So we have to become a bit fearless, like you. I don't know if we'll become as fearless as you. I don't know if I want to walk on hot coals and all of that. I'll watch it. I might, but especially the spider part. No. But we can become fearless to a certain extent. But it's self-confidence, finding out who we are. Now, so many people are into genealogy to find out where we came from, which is very important to know
Yes.
where we've been. But you're talking about something even more than that, correct?
In my experience, having the privilege of being able to go and connect with exactly where I've come from is important. Although people can do that. There's a friend of mine who honeymooned in Ireland, and a cousin of his took him to, she said, I want to take you to a beautiful, beautiful place. He said, okay. Well, it ended up being a cemetery where there were 4 generations of his family that were there. And for him, he said it was the most amazing experience. So it's not so far-fetched. Even if there are family members that are no longer, with you today, you can still go and visit those places and connect. Because truly knowing, now we're in an age where we're so busy, we're always moving on to the next thing and the next thing. And if there's ever been a story in someone's past that everybody's trying to distance themselves from maybe the aunt, the uncle, the grandparent, or something that might have been a little bit different of a personality than where you are, or where we are, and so there might be this element of fear in finding things out. But it's so important to know where one comes from and to connect in that. There's so much richness in that.
It is, but I think you take that and then you find out who you are, because you're parts and pieces of the past generations.
Well,
and
that and every experience that we've ever been through contributes. It's like a brick wall or a beautiful monument, a sculpture. There are all of these bits and pieces that make us who we are. When I take a look back, and some people ask in conversation, well, if you could have a do-over, what would it be? And I always say I wouldn't do anything over, because it's some of the most horrible experiences that I've had that have been, well, we'd like to call them character building opportunities.
Oh, yes, I've heard that term before, yes.
But it's all of those experiences that have shaped me into the woman that I've become, and they've made me stronger. And if any one of those did not happen exactly the way they were supposed to, then I wouldn't be where I am now. And I'm very happy with this person that I've become. And it's just, it's a constant rebirthing process, and it's a reinvention. It's learning more and more about who we are and what we're made of. Because it's so much easier to push things under the carpet sometimes, because, we just don't want to go there. I'm already too busy. I already have too much on my plate. Why would I want to go there?
Yeah.
I'm worried about if I can even get to the grocery store this week and have time for that, or much less, have dinner with a dear friend. Then work on that stuff.
Yeah. Now you said you went to Peru and you
Yes.
you met some very fascinating people there and had some experiences. Can you share just one story from that helped give you this confidence, this fearlessness?
Sure. It was so beautiful down there. If you could imagine, I'm a person that loves the outdoors, and being down there in the jungle, the air is so rich, and it's so fertile, and it's so moist. And when I breathed, every time I took in a deep breath, I could feel every ounce of my being fed. It was extraordinary. And we were doing some beautiful ceremony on a beach one evening, and our teacher had told us to ask a question. I'm not really big on asking questions like that, and I wrestled with it a little bit, and I said, okay, well, my teacher, my mentor asked me to do this. All right, I will do this. Well, let me just predicate the rest of the story by saying that my biological mother died when I was 1.5 years old. So she died in a car accident. So as I'm sitting on the beach, I asked how she could have abandoned me. And it was one of those things where you do this. Who said that?
Yeah.
Because that wasn't me.
Wow.
I'm not the person to play the victim. And in that very moment when I asked that question, she was everywhere. She was in the sand below me. She was in the blanket I was sitting on. She was in my bundle of healing stones. She was in the fire, in the air, in the stars. The heavens looked like the Milky Way down there. And in that moment, when I felt her in every ounce of my being, she said to me, I didn't abandon you. If I did, you would have died in that accident. And it was at that moment I felt this enormous responsibility to do the work I am meant to do while I'm here. That my life was spared so that I can help people. And it had never been presented to me in quite that light. And once that happened, it shifted so much within me. So
Wow.
much.
So that was that little girl inside you that maybe had that little question and carried it with you and you didn't realize it?
Well, one of the
Maybe.
things that most of us don't realize is that we have abandonment things that go back pretty far. And it's not something people will come out and readily say, oh, I have abandonment issues. Of course, nobody's going to say that.
No, yeah,
But,
of course not.
you know, it might come up after a bottle of wine or something, half a dozen martinis, but still might not. But it contributes to this underlying script that we have that we don't pay a lot of attention to. And then it just, every time that someone's in a relationship and it ends badly, and then one person is left is literally left, and then all of these things, come up. And where it seems like it's out of nowhere, it's really not. We all have these things. That's part of what makes us so special and who we are.
Wow, that's quite a story. It's, okay, so let's take that person that you have then become, okay? And let's talk about why you decided to do what you're doing today.
Well, I'd mentioned there were a lot of trials and tribulations and character building opportunities. And one of those was an 18-year marriage to an alcoholic that gifted me the most wonderful son. He's extraordinary. Well, in the process of going through that courtship and that marriage, I went from this fiercely independent young woman to someone who lost her voice. And every time I see, whether it's a woman or a man, who loses their voice, it just eats up a part of me on the inside. Because everyone is worthy of being heard. I don't care who you are. I don't care what you have to say. It's like having the right to breathe. Everyone has the right to be heard. And Stephen Covey had said that when you truly listen to someone, it's like giving them the equivalent of psychological air. Because everybody has this desire to be valued and to be heard. But when we're running a script inside of us that does not dictate that, people can sense it. And therefore, when we communicate, we don't get the responses that we'd like, because we'll call it the vibe. The vibe that we're putting out there is much different than the way we want to be perceived.
Well, we also sometimes are talking to someone and they're receiving it possibly in a different manner than we mean it to be received.
Oh, sure. Well, if you ask 10 different people the same question, how many different answers do you get?
10 different answers.
Exactly. And that's because everyone comes from a completely different perspective. You have 10 sets of life experiences, you have 10 sets of pain, you have 10 sets of victory and triumph, you have 10 sets of loss, you have, 10 people whose experience, who the way they show up is formed by all their experiences. So it's like the person who is meaning well and trying to give you advice, but it's a biased opinion because they're only guiding you based on what they know. and what affected them and what they felt or believed was best for them.
So when you're speaking to a group, it's going to be received by each person in that group in a different manner.
Yes, it will. I like to refer to holding space, meaning that my intent is powerful and that I perceive and I visualize everyone getting exactly what they need. People show up for all kinds of reasons, but a couple of underlying things. One is it's your intent. So your intent needs to be crystal clear, needs to be very strong. If your intent is not strong, people will sense that. And I always come with a very open, full heart. And because I'm coming from a place of service, I am giving people the space to feel safe and a place to be open and to receive whatever it is that they need. Now, there are speakers that do things all different kinds of ways. And if you went to see a speaker and they gave you this vibe like they were stressed out or something, or if you've ever heard a speaker and there was a disconnect, if you left afterwards a little confused, but you couldn't put your finger on what it was, chances are it's probably because this person's intent did not match with the thoughts that they had of the moment. It didn't match their body language and it didn't match their words. So it left the audience very confused. And an audience, people are intimidated by audiences, and well, they have a right to be if they're not feeling solid in who they are, because an audience has that same keen sense like a dog or a horse, in the sense that they can pick up on fear. They can smell it. So if you don't have it all together, they'll pick up on it in an instant. And it may manifest in the way that one is talking, because when people are nervous, they talk really fast.
Yes, they do.
It may also manifest in the way someone moves about a stage. I've seen speakers go back and forth where you practically get whiplash from trying to keep up with them. And so it's a combination of everything that this speaker has going on that contributes to the vibe that they put out. So, I could stand in front of a room, of a group of people, and not say anything, and still have them feel good. I could do it without speaking a word, and it's because of where I'm coming from here, and the power of my intent, and holding space for them to receive.
It's kind of like your hugs.
Yes.
I love your hugs. Everybody loves Leslie's hugs. Because when she hugs, and you feel it. And it lasts. It's not a quick hug. It's a heart-to-heart felt hug.
You hold on until the other person exhales. It's like that thing, wait for it, wait for it. And then, it's almost like shaking hands, when you shake hands with somebody and you get that wet fish kind of a handshake. Well, a hug is the same thing. You can give someone an embrace that will help them feel appreciated and worthy and loved, or you can just give them a quick, tap on the back. And so if you're going to go through that effort, why not just give them a hug that'll really rock them?
Yeah.
Or ease them, calm them, as the case may be.
Whatever is needed at the moment.
That's right. Whatever floats your boat.
So you have been going through these different transitions in different careers, and you're in a place now.
I'm home.
That's what it feels like.
I am home now. Everything I've been working towards in my life has been preparing me for this moment.
Now that's amazing. Not that many people in the world can say that. And they haven't been through apparently enough transitions, enough searching within as well as without, and finding out. We all have a purpose.
Yes.
And I have no idea why I'm still here, except that I make people smile.
Why isn't that enough?
And that's enough. That's enough in the different ways that I do it. And that is important to me because that feels like home.
Well, and look at the look at the great guests that you bring and the messages that you get out into the world that may not otherwise get out there.
That's true. That's true. And we have a lot of people that watch our show from all over the world, actually, even though it's a locally produced show. And that's the best kind because we have the messages that people want to hear, that they need to hear.
See, you're a messenger.
I am. I'm a messenger. There you go. And each time I have someone come on the show, and I'm very selective about who we do have on the show, because I want that message to be there. I want the viewers to feel that message and receive that message. And whenever we do the show, I say we have an hour, and it's your show. Even though I format it, but the format comes from you and the things that you want to talk about and share. And that to me is important. So I am a messenger. Indeed I am.
Yes, you are.
Yes.
You have to get your little badge. It says messenger.
Absolutely. I like that. I like that.
Messenger extraordinaire.
Well, you know, I'm kind of fearless in a lot of ways, and I figure it's because I have, you know, I was actually on TV recently, and I was interviewed. And I tell people it's like a, you know, the heart rhythm where it's going along and then it goes up and things are great and then it goes, everything goes bad. And then it goes up and then it goes down and everything kind of like, okay, here we go again. It's all a part of the journey as we're learning, as things are happening, good and bad, because that's how we develop, how we are nurtured, and how we grow into the person we're meant to be.
Well, it's easy when things are good.
Of course it is.
And when they're smooth and when it's fun. It's when it gets really challenging that people have the most difficult time appreciating or being able to step back for a moment and take a look, you know, at what's going on and to say, ooh, okay, all right, I see this now. And just because I've had an experience, it doesn't define who I am. It will shape who I am to some degree, but it doesn't need to define someone. And there's so many people that get lost in that. They feel it defines them.
Yeah, so many do. And so many of them too, when they, when something bad occurs, they go, whoa, what did I do? What did I do? And what it is, it may be what you haven't done. And it needs to call your attention to the fact that you need to stop and pause a minute and reflect and say, whoa, okay, is this a test? What am I supposed to do? Let me think about this. And then you kind of pause and reflect, because we all have to do that from time to time. Some women, they say, well, I'm an unfinished woman. That's a term that a lot of us have heard. And it's true, we're continually evolving because of the people that we meet and how they influence us and the people we influence. It all kind of changes the picture. And so we just continue on and we're continually evolving. And yeah, we're not finished until it's over.
Well, and it's that ability to continually evolve that helps us to find happiness. Because if we fight it, then we'll be absolutely miserable. And there's enough things going on in the world that could make someone miserable.
Yeah, listening to the news.
Exactly.
It could. Well, this is a good point for us to take a little break.
Sure.
And we will just take a couple of minutes, and we will be back and more with Leslie. So stay tuned.
Can you help me with this? My new dad teaches me all kinds of stuff.
Sure.
He helps me with homework.
That would be 3.6795.
Thanks.
Yep.
He helps me with my decision making.
I wouldn't use this one. Ever.
And he's even teaching me how to drive.
And that's why cars have bumpers.
I'm learning so much.
You don't have to be perfect to be a perfect parent. Thousands of kids in foster care will take you just as you are. When some people struggle with their mortgage payments, they become frozen, petrified. Not knowing what to do, they do nothing. But the people who take action are far more likely to get the most positive outcome. Making home affordable is a free government program. Call now to talk one-on-one with a housing expert about the options that are right for you. Real help, real answers, right now.
There's a shelter pet who wants to meet you. Meet one today. Visit theshelterpetproject.org. Adopt.
And welcome back. I'm Marilyn Dayton, and this is From This Corner TV, and we are very privileged today to have Leslie Karen Hammond with us. And we've been talking about confidence and getting to know yourself and what you are meant to do, what feels like home to you. And finding that confidence and that direction that you want to go in. So now let's take that and show how you can help someone develop that into a business where they speak to others and build that business.
Well, I'm going to touch just a little bit on, people they can build up this confidence, and they may be very confident in one area, say fearless enough to jump out of a plane,
Yes.
fearless enough to go on a roller coaster. So they may have this fearlessness and confidence within them in that situation. But when you go to put someone in a public speaking situation, I mean, most of the population would rather be in the coffin than give the eulogy.
Well, yeah.
I mean, we've all heard that
Yes.
saying quite a bit. And the interesting thing about when it comes to speaking, it's almost as though all sense of reason flies out the window. And you can take someone who's normally very well put together, put them on a stage, and then all of a sudden they forget that they're an expert, or they forget they're a successful business person, or is all of these things just have a way of fleeting right out of them. So one of the things that's so important about speaking is that it gives someone an opportunity to come to terms with everything that's happened in their lives to the point where they're comfortable standing up in front of a group of people and speaking a truth, whether or not it's a business truth or it's a personal truth. But the courage it takes to get up there means that someone has overcome every time they were asked a few questions. One, who do you think you are? Mm-hmm. And when someone asks, I know, I've been asked that question plenty of times. And sometimes it comes with a hand on the hip. Who do you think you are?
Exactly.
And every time that question is presented, it almost kicks us down a notch, because if someone else is asking that of us, we tend to ask that of ourselves. Well, who do I think I am?
Oh boy.
And that really impacts that expert mentality. So one of the things that most affects people when it comes to public speaking, they could have been in business for years, and then all of a sudden they don't feel like an expert. They don't realize how valuable all of the skills, all of the experience, everything that they have, it makes them an expert. And because we talked earlier about if you ask 10 different people the same question, you get 10 different answers, well, they're all experts on the way they see something. So everyone is an expert. You could be an expert on grape jelly, for example.
All right.
I mean, it's a matter of how good you feel about what you're presenting and owning it. There are some people that all of a sudden they feel like someone won't want to hear what they have to say. I mean, we're talking people that have powerful messages that all of a sudden get into this mindset of, well, why would anyone want to hear my story? And I firmly believe that everyone has a story that will impact someone else. You never know if you could be saving a life because of a story that you tell, or if you could help someone make a decision that they've been on the fence about for years, but they just never had the courage because they never knew someone else went through what they're in the middle of. And to hear someone speak from a stage and refer to exactly what they're going through, I mean, just imagine the impact that that would have on people. So once people have that confidence and they think, okay, I'm ready to go out and speak now, well, that's the first part of it. But it depends on why someone wants to speak. So there are all different kinds of talks that people can give. One of the most common is simply being of service. People have a powerful message they want to share, they want to change lives, they just want to give. So that's one reason for people to get up and talk. Another reason is perhaps somebody wants to sell something from the stage. I think we've all experienced someone who wants to sell something from the stage. And typically what most people experience is maybe you've got 25, 30, 40 minutes of somebody talking about something, and then in the last 5, it's the hard sell, and it completely turns you off. And you think, I can't get out of this room fast enough. So when someone wants to sell a product from a stage, there's a whole system and a formula for the way that one can do that successfully. Now there's another reason for people to give talks is because they want to build their list. And essentially list building is, get more people on your mailing list so that you have a broader reach. That's another kind of a talk that you would give. And another kind of talk is sometimes people create products from the talks they give. So you might create an audio product, you might create a video product. So there's all different kinds of talks. And one of the most important things that people don't consider when they have a talk, so say for example, if you have a new speaker who has, they've pinned the date down, so they've got the date for when they're going to talk, and they've written their talk, they've practiced their talk, they looked in the mirror and their tie's all straight or their dress is all fine, and then I wonder if they're really ready. And the reason I say that is because as any successful business person in the world knows, you need to have a strategy. And that's where a lot of people could use some help, is in developing the strategy. So if you want a lot of people to come and show up to your talk, there is something that you do beforehand. There's pre-talk strategy. And then the talk itself, there's a way to write a talk so that it helps you achieve the goal. First off, you need to be very clear on what kind of a talk you want to give. Because if you're not clear, then your audience will not be clear. And people that are confused, well, for one, they don't buy. And 9 times out of 10, if someone is confused, they're not going to approach you and want more information. So one of the analogies, I'll paint a picture just so you can get a visual on this, is that most times when people give a talk, they're deathly afraid of the audience where people are kind of falling asleep, or they're sending texts, or they're checking email. So their goal is to go from having people like that disengaged to people that are engaged, people that are sitting in their seat, they're leaning forward, they're smiling. You can tell that there's a connection with them. You can tell that there's a bond. That's where most people like to be when they're speaking. And what I challenge business owners to do is take that to the next level. When you give a talk, imagine people running to the back of the room because they want what you have, or they want to sign up to talk to you because what you shared with them was so impactful and it was so meaningful, they want more.
That's what we all want.
Exactly. And I mean, holding that visual of people running to the back of the room is, it's extraordinary, because so many times when people get up and they give talks, they give too much information. And people can only ingest so much information.
True.
But they give so much information that everyone in the audience, they feel satisfied. They feel,
Or they feel, I can't take all of that
Right,
in.
overwhelmed.
Yeah.
And then they walk away and they may not apply anything, or they may feel so good that they don't need you for your services because you've answered all their questions and you fixed their problem. And that's one of the things that a lot of people don't consider when giving talks is just giving way too much information. And there's all kinds of techniques on how you talk to people because there are different learning styles, and it's how do you appeal to each of these different learning styles. So I'll tell you a little trick, and this makes a great party thing too, if
Ooh,
you
I
ever
like
want to do
that.
this. So you know that there are basically 3 different kinds of learning styles. So you have people that are visual, you have people that are auditory, and you have people that are kinesthetic. And one of the challenges that a lot of people, and even some trainers have, and some coaches, is they don't know how to figure out what kind of person someone is. So here's a little trick. This is what you'll have fun with at parties. So you ask someone about a childhood memory. So say, for example, tell me about your favorite Halloween costume.
Okay. Oh, do you want me to
Yes,
answer?
yeah.
Oh, okay. I was a little girl from Holland, and I had actual sabot, I guess you call them, the shoes, the wooden shoes, and my mother had made this costume for me. And I felt very special because I really looked the part, and I was from a different country.
Well, you are part visual and kinesthetic.
Yes, I am.
And I'll tell you how I figured that out.
Yeah.
One is when I ask the question, your eyes looked up slightly.
Oh, okay.
That means you're visual. And then you got to talking about, you moved your body to tell the story, and you talked about how you felt. So when you ask someone about, or to recall a memory, you watch what they do. Watch their eyes in particular. So if their eyes go up, they're visual. If their eyes go from side to side, they're auditory. And if their eyes go down, they're kinesthetic.
Wow. Did you write that down? Okay.
So have fun with that the next time
Yeah,
you go
absolutely.
somewhere.
Work it into a party, your next party, because
That's
that
right.
is fascinating.
And then they can write in and they can make comments on your on the video about how that worked out for them.
Yes, exactly. Let us know.
That's right. We'd like to know.
Yes, we do want to know. That's interesting. And I when I learn every way imaginable. I have to write it down. I have to see it. I have to hear it in order for it to stick. So I think that applies to everything I do.
Well, we all
probably.
have many components and combinations of these learning styles, and that writing part is it contributes both to the visual component of learning and the kinesthetic. Right. So it's helping you to process as well as seeing what it is that you're writing.
Mm-hmm. I know my granddaughter the other day, she said, why do I have to go through this process in order for me to learn something? I said, well, honey, your mom's like that and your Grammy's like that. So, hey, it is what it is.
You can
so
thank me
deal
now.
with it. Yes. You're welcome. So now how do you help someone? Let's say one of our viewers is saying, okay, she's making a lot of sense, and what I want to do is, I want to speak, but what I want to do is what a lot of people are doing too. I want to make little video snippets that kind of introduce people and prepare people for coming to see me speak. So I give a little bit here, a little bit here, a little bit here. How can you help me with that?
If you were to make a video, no more than, but keep it less than 200 words if you can. And this way it'll be less than 2 minutes long. You introduce yourself, you let people know what it is that you're there to share with them. You give them a really quick teaching tip, you reinforce it, then you let them know how they can get in touch with you.
Okay,
Very simple.
very simple.
Because as you had said, when some people are in audiences and they hear a person speak, it can be so overwhelming because they take in so much information. Well, in today's day and age, the average attention span of most people surfing the internet 9 seconds. So if you don't capture them in the first 9 seconds, they're gone.
Yes, absolutely. Keep that in mind. Write that down too. But there are several ways that you can help. For instance, a person can go to your website, like I did, and download your 3 secrets to building your confidence.
Yes.
Because basically, the foundation of what you are going to do is you have to have that confidence.
Well, you do, and there are many different ways that I help people, but I found the most successful ways are when you go through this component to either reinforce the confidence that they have, and in some cases it takes a lot of building. There may be reconstructing of a foundation, so to speak, because they just don't feel like they're really steady. And then once we get through that piece, then there's the whole component of going through talk strategy. So writing, there's the pre-strategy, there's the strategy of the talk itself, and helping you to craft something where you can communicate in such a way that people will be very intently listening to you, and you won't be giving away too much information, and at the end they're going to want to know more. And then the post-talk strategy, and and the follow-up, and how you keep people engaged thereafter. So it's a whole process.
It is a whole process, and that's how you help people.
Yes.
And you can do this if someone is watching us from California or Georgia.
That's correct.
You can do this over Skype.
Yes. Lots
And-
of phone calls and yes, and internet conversations.
Because it's I don't know, is it a small world or is it a large world now? I can't remember which way it is.
Small,
But very small because we can communicate. Like my son lives and works in Japan. So Skype is a good way to communicate. He's going to bed as I'm getting up. And well, he stays up till 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning. I don't know how he does it. He's younger, of course. But
A gift of youth.
yes, absolutely, for now. So a quick talk on Skype is, a nice way to go. But there's just so many different ways to communicate today, and not have to be in the same room,
Correct.
which is very interesting. Now, so this process you teach someone, can you, depending upon what they need, it can be a short-term type thing, or you can take them through like a training?
Well, yes,
or-
and ideally, it's a 6-month process. So in a perfect world, that's what it is. If someone was in a situation where they didn't have 6 months, well, we would talk about exactly what they needed and how we could make that fit into the time frame that we had. But when it comes to that confidence piece, I always tell people, well, look at how long it took you to get where you are.
Right.
These kinds of things, they don't happen overnight. They do happen, and every so often people have these life-changing epiphanies where they're able to make significant change on the turn of a dime. But most times when that happens, it's not very pleasant. It's considerably, it's usually a life-threatening type of a thing that happens. So most times people need time to process. Just like when someone quits smoking, it takes time for that to get out of your system, and it takes time for you to find that balance again.
Because you're kind of climbing over garbage that we carry with us all the time. That that self-sabotage pile, that we find here as we're trying to go there, or we're trying to go over here, and there's this pile of that stuff. And we have to take a look at it, recognize it, and say you're no longer important, or however we do that. But we do have to recognize it first for what it is.
Exactly.
And say, I see you, I hear you, but you're no longer in my way, so
That's
to
right.
speak. Yeah, that does not happen overnight.
No.
That's for sure. I know I've been over quite a few piles in my life. That's that point where I came back down and had to kind of scramble and go, oh boy, now what do I do?
Well, and it's that fear of the not knowing what's next. I mean, not specifically knowing what's next, that sometimes just sends people right over the edge. because we're so used to knowing everything and being able to see everything. And when we can't, there's this piece of us that does not know how to fully trust, that doesn't accept that we will get what we need, that doesn't accept that everything happens for a reason, and that there is no such thing as coincidence. We are placed exactly where we need to be, exactly when we need to be there. And it's an interesting thing to measure what some would call coincidences and just the things that happen in one's life, because most of the time, I mean, and this happened to me for years and years, is all these extraordinary things would happen and I wouldn't keep a journal of them. And I wouldn't note them. And I can't remember all of them because there's just been so many things. And now I make it a point to constantly journal so that I have something I can look back on.
That's probably a good idea. And it's never too late to do that, okay? I mean, I've kept a journal on and off throughout my life, especially when I'm coming out of one of those down times. It helped me organize myself and realize, okay, I'm here for a reason. What's that reason? I need to know that reason. And I work through it by writing through how I feel, what I think. So a journal is always, it's very healing.
It's a great place to start.
It really is. So hey, write that down too.
Okay.
Okay.
Make a note of that.
Now you've been an author too.
Yes.
And before we show the books, now if someone's going to be a speaker, does it add a lot to their credibility if they've also written a book?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
But it can be a short ebook that has tips, techniques, so that they've actually got something to say to people, okay, this is yours, and I'm giving it to you to get you thinking in the right direction, and then I can help you go from there.
Oh, absolutely. You can write a book or do a publication of any size. The important thing is have a very specific goal in mind, just like with a talk, for what the intent of this is. You know, what do you want to accomplish? Who are you trying to reach? What is the transformation that you're offering? So all very key points in what you write.
Absolutely. And let's show your books. Now this is the first one?
First one, yes.
This is the first one, and
Correct.
I have this. And it's Tap Your Source, which is a very interesting book. It makes you think about those major transitions in life. It's kind of like a journal in a way, isn't it?
Well, it is. It's not the type of read that you can just pick it up and flip through it. I've been calling it a workbook for life.
Yeah.
So essentially, you roll up your sleeves, you get a pen, pencil. I like pencil because I can erase if I change my mind. And then you work through it. And much as the way you process things, it's a combination of, writing and doing. Well, the writing, it gives you an opportunity to process. And there's something about actual paper and pen that helps us to process. And what this does is it offers different perspectives on so many levels, because really it's all about shifting our perspective. And without the ability to do that, that's when we stay stuck. That's when we stay in pain. That's why we never get up on the stage, because we believe we don't have anything good to say, or we believe no one wants to hear us.
And the interesting thing about this book is, that I have found personally, is when I read it and used it as a workbook maybe 3-4 years ago, I think it was, I need to do it again, because guess what? I have transitioned into a different place than where I was when I did it the first time. So yeah, I did mine in pencil too. So
Congratulations on the new transition.
Yes, absolutely. And this book is very interesting. This one is called Women Rising. And this one where it says how to go from uncomfortable to unstoppable. I like that. We can all learn from this book.
A lot of juicy things. Well, the beautiful thing about Women Rising is that you don't need to read it from cover to cover. You certainly can, but I always believe that whenever you have a book and you flip it open, wherever you land is exactly where you're supposed to be.
And I love those kinds of books because I can't just sit down and read a book straight through anymore. Time constraints.
Sure.
So it's very easy to read a chapter or two or a story or two, which, this is perfect for that. So now, are these books available on your website?
They are on Amazon.
Amazon.
So you can go on to Amazon, and if you have an interest in having one personalized, just send me an email, and I'm happy to mail you one.
And so what you want to do on Amazon is just put in and search for Leslie Karen Hammond, and the books will come up. And there's her email address. And I have thoroughly enjoyed this. This has been wonderful. Well worth the wait. Absolutely.
It's been a lot of fun. I love telling stories and just being able to share things, and it's the perspective shift. Because sometimes it doesn't take much. It's like the slightest calibration on an oven, for example, when you're baking something. A souffle works at this temperature, doesn't work at this one.
Exactly.
So a slight shift can create a monumental transformation.
Well, thank you so much for coming on the show. It's been absolutely wonderful. And as always, I like to finish with a quote. And I asked you for a quote, and she actually sent me one of my favorite quotes, Maya Angelou, of course. I love her quotes. And so this is a repeat, okay? But that's okay. It's worth hearing again.
It's good stuff.
Absolutely good stuff. And here's what it is. I've learned that people will forget what you said. People will forget what you did. But people will never forget how you made them feel. And that is just so true. Like we were talking about, when you're speaking to people, they may not remember everything you said, but at the end, it's how they feel.
Exactly.
And that's the focus. That's what you want when you're speaking. And we've got another minute. I want to ask you a question.
Sure.
If you're speaking to a group of people at your church, or a group of, it's kind of a women's group that you're a member of, that's quite a bit different than when you're speaking to business people, correct?
Well, the key component is knowing your audience. So be clear on who your audience is, be clear on what it is that you want them to take away, so the transformation. And then once you know that, you can cater that to be whatever it needs to be. So you may be a little more relaxed in a women's group than you may be at a business group. And then even at church, you might find yourself in a slightly different feel than what you might otherwise be. So it really depends on the audience, and then what the goal is to match where your audience is, so that you're giving them the space to feel comfortable. Because when you're comfortable, they're comfortable.
Absolutely. So that's what you need to remember, okay? So thank you all for joining us. This has been, I knew it was going to be good. This has been a great show. And I look forward to our next one. So please come back and join us on our next show. Thank you.
Thanks, Marilyn.